Hello and welcome to the Kick in the Creatives podcast, hosted by myself, Sandra Busby, and my fellow creative Tara Roskell, offering you interviews, inspiration, motivation, and a gentle prod in the right direction. And for lots more information, challenges, and other useful tools to help you get creating, you can go to www.kickinthecreatives.com. And of course, this is where you can also find today's show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's episode, and today we'll be talking about how to plan a successful sketching trip, whether it's by yourself, with a friend, or even a group of other sketchers. But before we get onto the topic, we just want to thank a couple of people that have left us a really lovely review on iTunes for this podcast. So first of all, Patty Kelly Fuller. She says, makes art great fun. I just discovered this podcast and I've been enjoying it immensely. I love the humour and the style of this podcast. I particularly appreciate the knowledge of art, technique and materials. I love the challenges as they help me maintain a regular daily practice of enjoying my art. The challenges provide wonderful encouragement and the community and their feedback is appreciated. So that was really nice. Thank you, Patty.
Yeah, and I've got one here from T. Jason Williams, and I think Jason has left us a review before when he first started listening, but he's left us another one, and it says, so much fun. I've been listening to this podcast for months now. Sandra and Tara are so inspiring, absolutely hilarious. I agree. Do you, Sandra?
Yeah.
Yeah. I adore the creative chats they have. Good job.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. And we also want to thank everyone who has been sharing their work with us on social media. It's too early for us to talk much about the September work just yet because, well, it's August for us. But August has proved to be a really popular month. Got a lot that's caught my eye. So we've got art by Jackie P. She's done some really lovely drawings on toned pastel paper using coloured pencils. Have you seen those?
Yeah, they're lovely.
Yeah, they were for the Quick Kicks Challenge. Frank J. Ferrer, he's been doing some really lovely work. One of his watercolours was of a famous building. I think it was the Guggenheim Museum. It had some little people standing outside and kind of sitting underneath. The actual painting of the building itself was absolutely beautiful, and then you had these little sketches of people underneath, but there was so little information in these people, but it was really effective, so I really liked that one. Did you see that?
I don't think so, no.
And Sophie Knight, she's done some gorgeous drawings for the 31 Animals August Challenge. The one I love, in fact there's two I really love, the parrot she drew, and she drew this cute little hedgehog which is all curled up in a ball. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. So what about you? What's caught your eye, Tara?
Well, I love that hedgehog as well. It's so cute.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. But also, I've really liked Kim Stremmel. She did a sketch of a dog having a snooze, a pencil sketch. That was absolutely gorgeous. Johanna Brown, she's been drawing some really fantastic animals on coloured paper. I don't know if you've seen those. There's one of a wasp the other day, which I'm not a fan of wasps, but the drawing was really, really nice. Really good.
Yeah, I don't like wasps either.
No. Then I've got Laurie Hamaski, and she's been doing the Kick Cartoon Challenge that we did with 64 Million Artists. And she's been making cartoons from everyday objects, and they've been really, really fun. So, yeah. Anyway, what is new with you, Sandra?
Not a lot, really, at the moment. I haven't actually started my new painting yet because I haven't actually found quite the right composition. But I'm working on it. Sometimes this part is, takes longer than the actual painting. But yesterday I did pick up the giclée prints I've had made of the marble painting that I've just finished, and I'm really, really happy with those. Just got to get them mounted and wrapped, and then they'll be ready to go on my website, which is great. Apart from that, aside from keeping busy making our Art Kick Sunday videos, nothing's really new, to be honest, which is unusual for me.
Oh, never mind.
I know.
So what are you painting anyway this time? Can you tell us?
Well, obviously I've just painted some marbles. This time I'm painting another, it's a whiskey-inspired painting. So I won't say too much about it. But there's
dark
a bit
or light?
Dark.
Right.
Lights have gone out again. Yeah, it might have a bit of flesh in there somewhere as well.
Oh.
Body parts.
Oh, God. Let's not say any more about that then. You mean a hand?
Well, don't give it away.
Oh, okay. Or lips?
I'm not saying. You'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
So what about you? What's new with you?
Well, you remember last time I was painting faces in watercolour?
Yeah.
Well, I've been carrying on with that, and I've done one nearly every day of this month so far. And I'm absolutely in love with White Knight's watercolour paints, if anybody's thinking of getting some paint. But I've been going through this thing where they started off, so they were terrible, and then they started getting much, much better, and I was doing these loose faces and quite liking them. But now they're going through a little bit of a dip again, and it's almost like I've now got too detailed again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I'm hoping I can loosen them up again. I can't quite work out.
Because the last time we spoke, you were having a nightmare with it. You were saying how difficult it is. Obviously, then with a bit of practice, you found that you got better.
Yeah.
And now you're finding that you're not liking them as much. Right. I don't think that's unusual, actually. It's often the case where you kind of just almost work on autopilot in the end, and then suddenly you get one that doesn't work, and it's like, oh my God, what's happened, And it's just, sometimes I think you need a little reminder, there's still always something new to learn, and you have to go down these little dips to... Yeah, well, they say, don't they? You have to have the dips to appreciate the ups. Is that right?
I'm having quite a few dips at the moment then. So, it's really frustrating though, because it's like, I can see one, I'm thinking, why did that one work? And why is this one now all tightened up? And I just can't work it out.
Maybe it's frame of mind. Maybe it's just when you were doing it. Were you in a rush? Were you thinking about something else?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I did think one thing is I've been using, all of my paper is relatively cheap, obviously, because I'm just sketching. But the Hobbycraft paper I was using is actually really I quite like it. I'm sure if you were like a real connoisseur of watercolours, you'd hate it. But I found it pretty good. But then I ran out of that, and I found... an old Works, the Works watercolour paper. It's shocking. It's shocking. So I've now bought some more Hobbycraft stuff again. So I did do one last night on that. It was a bit better, but still, I think I've gone a little bit tightened up. It's almost like I've kind of got a little bit of a handle on it, but then trying to control it too much, maybe.
I always think with watercolour, the biggest mistake anyone can make with watercolour is almost trying to control it. I think to some degree you've kind of got to let it control you and just go with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I'm not letting it do what it wants.
You kind of got to work with it and what it wants to do, and just embrace what it does, and then change direction if you need to because of how it goes, I think it's very unusual to... I mean, there are some watercolour painters out there that are just... I mean... Have you ever seen Carrie Waller's work? Oh, my goodness.
Amazing.
She's just fantastic. I love her stuff.
You wouldn't know it's watercolour, actually, would you?
No. Honestly, she's one of my favourite artists, and she's a lovely, lovely person as well. But, she's... I don't know, she just controls it beautifully. She's just got this natural ability, I think, with watercolour, and it's amazing. But... most people tend to use it in a really loose manner, and I think when you do it like that, I do think you have to just see what it does and then work with it.
Yeah, and that's what I need to do, I think.
Yeah, because sometimes you can have something in your head, can't you? You think it's going to turn out like something, and I think with watercolour, you can't plan it like that in a way.
I think one thing as well is, because I'm not sketching first, I'm just going in for these faces straight away with colour. So you haven't really got a set idea of what it's going to look like, but I don't know. I think I'm just trying to control it too much. Maybe.
Well, you're not making it very easy for yourself, are you? Because you haven't got even any lines down, like any.
But it's more
lines.
interesting. I find it a bit boring if I've drawn it first.
Well, you don't want to be painting by numbers, do you?
No, exactly. So yeah, and plus, I want to sort of train myself to see more accurately like that, rather than in outlines, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also organised another urban sketching meetup. I told you that, didn't I? That I went on Saturday.
You did, but you didn't tell anyone else.
No, but I'm going to talk about it a bit more later. But one of my goals is really to improve my sketching from life. But as I say, we'll discuss that a bit more when we get on with the show.
Okay, well, let's do that. So today we are talking about the importance of going out specifically to sketch from life and how to plan a successful trip. And obviously not everyone can dedicate a whole day to sketching on a regular basis. It might be that you can only spare the lunch hours at work, but I think we're going to talk about snatching time to sketch in a future episode. Today we're going to focus on arranging a dedicated sketching day trip, or maybe a half-day trip. But I'd never realised just how important regular sketching from life is until I actually started doing it on a regular basis myself. You know, I mean, I've drawn regularly for years, but mainly from photos, if I'm honest, because it's just so convenient, isn't it? But, you know, I can honestly say that within the first few months of sketching regularly from life, the improvement I made in that short time was huge in comparison to how much I'd progressed in the years before. And I mean, you know, in confidence, speed and style. And you've seen it happen, haven't you, Tara?
Yeah, you've definitely completely changed how you approach things.
I mean, although I could already draw, obviously, you know, sketching's, I think it's quite different. When I first started drawing years ago, I used to think that sketching was all about drawing accurately, but really fast. But that's actually not what it's about at all. It's really just about catching a moment, catching the feel and energy of what's going on around you, you know, rather than aiming for a high level of accuracy. So I think sketching from life is a completely different skill.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about capturing the essence, isn't it? And sometimes you have to even accept that your work is going to look quite unfinished, especially if you're drawing people and they move away. You can't expect to have this completely beautiful sketchbook like you might expect if you're drawing from photos. And that can be difficult, especially if you're worried that people might come behind you and start looking. And I would imagine that's one of the big reasons why people shy away from sketching in public, you know, for fear that people will actually come and look what they're doing. And of course, you know, nobody really says, I've never had someone come up to me and say, oh, that's terrible. I mean, I was in the bar sketching on Saturday before the one person arrived that turned up. And I was just sketching. They've got these, like, deer head. And I hate stuff like this, but it was just something that, you know, was there. You know, like a taxidermy sort of deer head on the wall.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I know. But I thought, I'll try and draw that. And the bar staff, she came up to me after a bit and she said, when the other woman got there, she said, oh, that was really good, the drawing you're doing. It wasn't. But you know, she didn't care. She was being nice. Whether she really liked it or not, I don't know.
Well, also, as a non-sketcher, she probably would, you know, feels that she couldn't do that, even though,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
and it all depends on the level of your expectation as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But before worrying about people seeing your sketches, the first thing you need to decide is, are you going to go out sketching on your own, or are you going to go with friends or in a group? And personally, I much prefer sketching with someone else. And it works really well when you and I go, doesn't it, Sandra? Because we're sort of similar level for sketching.
Yeah.
And we're also able to laugh about it if it goes wrong, aren't we? You know, I also go sketching, like I mentioned before, with a partner who doesn't draw, which also works, because to be honest, he doesn't even bother looking at my sketches, not in a bad way, but he's so used to seeing them, it's like, oh yeah, she's doing another drawing. It really doesn't matter to him in that way. But I really wanted more people to draw with locally, so as I mentioned a bit earlier, I started trying to arrange sketching groups near where I live, and I've actually enjoyed these, even though not many people have come. And there really hasn't been any problem with comparisonitis, I think. You know, it's all been fairly easygoing and fun. I've probably been the one that sketched more out of all the people. So I guess from that case, I've not looked at someone in awe, really. And I'd actually quite like to go, I think, with people who are a few steps ahead of me so I can learn a bit from them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could pick up a few tips or something like that. But the only problem with organising a sketch meetup is that you can guarantee that less than half the people that say they're going to come are going to show up.
Well, tell me how, first of all, you advertised it then.
Well, originally, the first ones I put on our local village group. And I think the first one, there was 2 people plus me.
You mean on Facebook?
Yeah, in our local village Facebook group. And so I put it on there. And then the second one, I put on Meetup and in the village Facebook group, and there was 3 people and me. So, but the trouble is, like for that one, there was 8 people supposed to have turned up for that one. You didn't respond. And to the one on Saturday, there was supposed to be 4 people on Meetup that said definite yeses. And then on Facebook, there were 19 people who said they were interested. And one person came.
Oh, no.
I mean, but the 19 interested, that doesn't really say they come in. But the Meetup is absolutely terrible. It's good and it's terrible. As long as you prepare yourself that less than half people will turn up, you're okay. But even if you do what I did, which is email everybody the day before and you say, if you can't make it for any reason, please just change your RSVP to no, which is simple. They just go in and press a button. Or please text me, and I give them my mobile number. No text, no changes.
Really?
So people just don't.
No.
Some people are really flaky. So yeah, basically I went and there was quite a young woman. She was 29. She came along, but luckily we got on quite well, and we did a bit of sketching in the bar, and then we went out to. There's a really old library and museum quite near where I live, and so we went and sat outside there and sketched, and then we went in there and drew. There was a statue, like just of a head, so we went in there and drew that and had a quick look in the gallery. So we had quite a good time. But yeah, if you're going to organise one, what I would say is organise it somewhere you feel comfortable. So when I organised this one, probably the bar is not a good place to sit on your own unless you're happy in that environment, which I'm not particularly. So I'm organising another one on Saturday, but it's by the river on the way back from where my mum and dad live. So I'm going to see them, and on the way back, I'm going to come sit by the river and draw. So I don't care then. If I'm sitting there on my own, that's fine. You know, I feel quite comfortable sitting by the river drawing. But if somebody else does show up, that's good as well.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the worst that can happen is that you know, no one shows up. But actually, does it really matter? Not really.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's why pick somewhere that you feel totally comfortable if you were sitting on your own drawing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're going to go out sketching alone, you do need to be a bit sensible about it. I mean...
Yeah, but where I'm going, the river, there'll be loads of people there.
Yeah.
There's picnic tables and stuff like that. But what I mean is, don't organise, like I did, to meet up in a bar if you don't feel comfortable sitting in the bar on your own.
No,
I mean, it's a big bar. It's not a, it's quite a casual kind of bar. But I don't feel particularly comfortable sitting somewhere like that. Whereas sitting somewhere outside, much more.
Yeah, you need to go where other people are around and you've got lots of things. I mean, like I say, you've got to be a bit careful when you're on your own. Probably wouldn't be a good idea to go sketching in, I don't know, the hood.
You know the hood, do you, Sandra?
I was going to say, I don't actually know where the hood is. I don't even know really what the hood is, but you hear about it, don't you?
Dodgy areas, I assume.
Is it a bad area?
I don't know.
So don't go sketching in the hood.
Yeah.
When you're on your own,
or anywhere you might get murdered.
Yeah, anywhere
almost,
anywhere you're likely to get shot or attacked by a bear or something.
Well, you nearly got murdered, apparently, according to you, didn't you? Which you talked about in one of our previous episodes.
Yeah, twice I nearly got murdered. Yeah, you'll have to listen back to because I can't even remember what episode that was. But yeah. Was it general art tips? Maybe I don't know.
It might be.
So choose a place at least where you're going to be safe, or otherwise, at least tell someone where you're going, what time you expect to be back, and take a phone with you so that at least if you are going to get murdered, you can let someone know what's happening. But I'm much more confident about sketching alone in a public place than I used to be. I mean, you won't believe this, Tara, but the other day, I actually whipped my sketchbook out while I was waiting.
I thought you say actually whipped someone in public.
I actually whipped my sketchbook out while I was waiting in Costa Coffee.
Yeah.
And there was a time that I would never have done that. I just wouldn't have done that. But now, I'd be quite happy to sketch in a group, definitely. But my preference, I think, has always been to sketch with someone who I'm comfortable with, just one person, because I just think it's I think it's more fun than being on your own. Definitely less intimidating than maybe being in a group of strangers, maybe. But, that's just what works best for me. And, if you feel the same, then ideally it's good to go with someone, like Tara said, who's on a similar level as you, or maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead. As, and people that perhaps enjoy sketching similar things as well. I mean, it's no good, is it, if one of you likes sketching nature and the other person loves drawing, I don't know, busy street scenes. So you should bear that in mind also when you're choosing who to go with. And, I think that's where we're quite good at. We both love drawing people, don't we?
Yeah, I think the only problem is, obviously, it's finding that person, isn't it, to draw with. And I would, even though I've just said about meetup, you've got to expect that you're going to get less than half turn up. In some ways, that's good, because if I'd have gone and 19 people from Facebook who were interested, plus 4 people who were supposed to turn up with me, if I'd gone there and there'd been 23 people plus me, I'd have been, oh my God, what do I do with these people?
Yeah.
And so probably, ideally, what happened is the best thing, where I got like 1 person turn up or 3 people turn up. It's got to be the right person, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I know I said about it's ideally you want to be able to say, you want to kind of like sketching similar things. But on the other hand, when we went sketching, I know that because I don't particularly like drawing buildings, I never have. But you kind of wanted to sketch buildings, didn't you? So I took you to I can't remember what level it was at the Tate Modern.
Yeah.
Because it's got a huge postcard glass wall and across the Thames, and you can just see all these buildings. And because you wanted to sketch buildings, I thought, you said to me, well, no, you've got to draw a building as well. So I did. And actually that's quite good because, it made me do something I wouldn't normally. So in some ways, it's good to find somewhere where there's different things to sketch, but go somewhere with people that are willing to maybe, I don't know, who encourage you to perhaps try something new as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and actually I think one of my favourite sketches of yours is when we were sitting by London Bridge on those benches and you drew a street light and a bridge, didn't you, across the river?
Yeah, I love those old-fashioned lampposts you get in London along the embankment. They're lovely. So I really wanted to draw one of those, but I'd never normally, I did the bridge in the background, didn't I? And there's some sort of buildings, and it's not the sort of thing I normally sketch at all. But I really enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah,
that was your favourite one, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of my favourite sketches you did, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Even though the bridge, well...
No, the bridge looked great. It's just you weren't used to not putting detail in. That was all it was. But the overall effect is really good.
Yeah.
I don't think you've shown anyone that, have you?
Probably not.
No. Put it on Facebook. Anyway, once you figured out whether you're going to go alone or with other people, you need to decide where you're going to go. So if you can dedicate a whole day to going out sketching regularly, that's great. But if you're planning not to go too far away, then even an hour or 2, it's still worth doing to get some practice. Just put the date in your calendar in advance so nothing else gets in the way. Or, like I said, arrange something with other people. So basically you've got to turn up then. There's no getting out of it. And obviously the time of year will make a difference to where you go and what you need to take. So if you're planning a trip in midwinter, sketching on the beach is probably not a good option, unless, of course, you're in a hot country. Because I was talking about coming to Brighton, wasn't I? And you said there's not much point in winter because basically we'll freeze our asses off, won't we? And I should think there'd be many people about either. So choose a place that suits the time of year and then decide what you're going to take. So you want to decide what sort of stuff to carry your art kit in. And the first time I went, I took a shoulder bag. I think even the second time I went, I took a shoulder bag that I could kind of loop over my other shoulder, and it really wasn't very comfortable. So a much better idea, and it's what you did even the first time, is a water-resistant rucksack, because then your hands are free. The only thing I don't like about a rucksack, and I don't know about you, Sandra, is that I don't like putting money in a rucksack.
No, because it's behind you, isn't it?
Yeah. And I've been looking for one, and I have seen a few where you've got a pocket where your back is. So it kind of puts it in, but I haven't found it. So what I did anyway, we went to Brighton, is I just took a bum bag, which is not overly trendy, but it worked.
And you know what the Americans call a bum bag, just in case any American... They call it a fanny pack, which is hilarious because that really sounds rude over here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the Australians calling flip-flops thongs. That always makes me laugh as well.
Yeah, anyway, the first time we went sketching, I also unpacked my bag at least 6 times. I think you did as well, didn't you?
Yeah, because you were texting me saying, how many times so far have you packed and unpacked? I've done it loads.
Because I was like getting different bags. We had like so many bags in the loft, and I was getting out a bag, and then I'd get a load of stuff and I'd put it in it, and I'd think, oh no, it's too much stuff, but now my bag's too big. So then I'd get another of the bags, put a lighter load, and I think, no, but I need that. And it was absolutely ridiculous, the amount of stuff I was originally going to take. So we were going to take video cameras and everything, weren't we, as well?
Well, yeah, we were going to take video cameras and I was going to say easels then. I don't mean, I meant tripods.
Yes.
Can you imagine an easel, pulling an easel at you? Tripods. And then it got to the point where we're like, actually, we just need to, if we're going to do any videoing, we just use our phones.
Yeah, it's just way too heavy. You do not want to end up with something that's incredibly heavy to carry around all day, because you're soon going to get pretty fed up with that. So travel pretty light and don't put too much in your bag.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, when I've decided to go out sketching, I've taken way too much. This is before we started going out on our sketching days. And the problem with that is that, I had so much decision making to do before I even started sketching. So, I'd open my bag and I'd literally taken everything I thought I might need. So my bag was, really bulky and heavy. I spent loads of time trying to find things and decide what I was going to use. And because of all that, I think it actually stopped me from sketching at all. I just made it way too complicated for myself. So the first time we went out sketching, Tara, I was so worried about taking too much as well, because we were going to London for the day as well. I didn't want to take too much. I actually did the complete opposite and took, the bare minimum, which was basically one mixed media sketchbook and a biro pen. Which,
so you had the first time?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And that basically worked well in the way that it took all of the decision making away. I could just get on with using what I had, because that's basically the only thing I had. And that's great if you're wanting to carry something with you all the time. That's fine. But maybe for a dedicated sketching trip, I limited myself too much, I think, and I actually wished I'd taken a bit more. So I'd kind of gone from one extreme to the other. But it was fine, because you had a few bits and I was using your bits, wasn't I?
Yeah, I gave you my chunky marker.
Thanks.
And you had to go with my brush pen.
Thanks.
Which I've now convinced you a brush pen is good.
Yeah, you have. I'm sorry, but I have failed to find the appeal of a chunky marker, though.
Yeah.
I'll give you the brush pen, but yeah.
I will convince you yet. And also, I think one thing to consider is pack according to what you want to achieve. So if you're going out with the intention that you want to maybe draw buildings, well, then maybe, an ink sort of fine line pen's the best thing. But then again, if you want to create something with colour, obviously you need some method of putting colour down, whether that's, brush pens or watercolours, whatever it is. So, for example, next time when we go, I want to use colour and try some cartoony, kind of exaggerated people. And maybe some buildings as well. So I need to pack accordingly. So I'll probably take some brush pens and maybe a small set of watercolours, something like that.
You know what's going to happen, don't you?
What?
You're going to
It's going to rain, isn't it?
No, it won't rain. Think positively, it won't rain. No, you're going to say, I want to sketch a building. And then you're going to do what you always do. You're going to sketch a building and say, I don't like sketching buildings. I want to sketch people.
I probably will, yeah. You're probably
you always
right.
say that.
I know, but I get a bit bored with windows. I start a building and I have this really good this is going to be so much fun. This is so much fun, and then after I've done 2 windows, it's like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah, but I like sketches where the windows are just so, I don't know, minimal. They're like almost like just a couple of lines to indicate them.
I know, but they've still got to be there, haven't they?
Yeah. But they don't have to be square.
No.
They don't have to be there and be square.
when I go on Saturday by the river, there's this really old factory type building. I think it's disused now, so it's got some smashed windows and stuff, but it is lovely. It's like this brick building, but it's got so many windows. And I'm thinking I'm going to have a go at that, but I don't know how long that will last.
Well, I did take you to Parliament, didn't I? And you weren't impressed.
Did. No.
But on our last sketching trip that we went on, I was really happy with my kit, actually. And I think I'm going to probably end up taking the same thing again next time. So I took I took a mixed media sketchbook because mixed media is good for anything. So that's the obvious choice. I would advise definitely not to take anything too precious because you don't want to have that worry of, spoiling the pages in your gorgeous sketchbook. Mine is basically a 7x10 Canson mixed media sketchbook, and I find that a perfect all-rounder, really. I like that. I like the size and I like the paper. I also took a pencil case with 3 pens inside. So I took a waterproof fine liner. I took a brush pen, which is fantastic for getting that variety of lines. And my favourite, which is a water-soluble Lamy Safari fountain pen. And if you're working on toned paper, you might also want to take a white pen of some kind, but I wasn't, so I didn't bother with that. And I also took a little travel brush and a really small bottle of water and a little tiny plastic pot with a lid. Tara, I know you prefer, don't you, to use those water brushes, don't you? You know, the ones...
Yeah, I love those, the reservoir ones.
Yeah, they kind of hold the water in the handle, and they are really useful, but I kind of just prefer the feel of a real brush. The nylon brushes I'm not so keen on. I also took a set of 12 water-soluble coloured brush pens, just in case I wanted to add any colour. And, you could take watercolours or water-soluble pencils if you'd rather, but if you do that, then keep the colours to a minimum. Just keep it travel-sized. And another thing you'll find handy, I think, is a few sheets of kitchen roll.
You didn't take any of that, did you?
No, you did, and we used it. Yeah. We used it as cushions, didn't we? But to clarify, in my actual sketching kit, all I had was 1 sketchbook, 1 pencil case containing 3 pens and a small brush, 12 coloured brush pens, a small bottle of water, and a very small pot, and some kitchen roll. So my bag was really nice and light, and there was plenty of choice in there, but not too much. And there was still plenty of room for other bits in the bag, like my purse or whatever else I needed to carry.
Yeah, and we did upgrade the second time. Well, when we went to Brighton, we upgraded from kitchen roll to sit on, and we got some camping. Well, I don't know what they are really. I got us some camping foamy things, didn't I?
Well, they're like little square portable cushions, and they're really they're comfortable, but they're about, I don't know, a centimetre thick, and they fold up, don't they, into like a really small size. Well, they're brilliant.
And I got the idea from Lynn Chapman's book. She's got a book about urban sketching people, and she suggests those that she used to use, and they would cost a grand total of about 80 pence, I think, on Amazon.
And they're waterproof as well, aren't they? So they're not going to absorb water from what you're sitting on either.
Well, I don't know, because you kept on sticking yours in those silly plastic bags, didn't you? You had a zip up polythene bag that then you couldn't sit on it because you'd just move.
I was so pleased with my new cushion that you kindly bought for me as a present. And I had with me to sit on a big freezer bag. And I thought, I want to keep my cushion. This is typical of me. I want to keep my cushion all lovely and clean. So I put it in my freezer bag, which is just plastic. And then we were trying to sit on a wall in Brighton, weren't we, to sketch the beach. And I kept sliding off. That's the trouble of being a bit OCD. That's the problem.
I mean, Sandra was very kind and also did buy me a freezer bag.
I did. I did.
So she wasn't being selfish. There was one each, but I just didn't bother with mine. So, but there are also other options. Even if you want to upgrade from an 80 pence camping cushion, I'm a little bit OCD with buying weird things. So if I get onto this thing about, what would be a good sketching stool? I've now got that many sketching stools. It's ridiculous. So,
just so you know, I haven't got any.
Oh, okay.
Just telling you, I've got none.
Well, I'm going to give you the heavy one then.
Oh.
So there are lots of different ones you can get from. I've got a sketching stool that I got for £4, and that was from Hobbycraft. So if you're in the UK, go in Hobbycraft, £4. This little sort of camping type stool. The only thing I don't like about it is it's quite big. It's quite long. It's very light.
Can you fit it in a rucksack?
No, you can't fit it in a rucksack. But
Right.
I have got one now that you can fit in a rucksack, and it's really, really light. I can even fit it in a shoulder bag that I've got.
Oh, wow.
I haven't actually used it outside yet. I've just got them already. So it's got like, it's kind of metal, but then it's got elastic in the legs. So you kind of do this weird twisting motion that you have to Google on YouTube because it's impossible to get it to come out and back again.
Okay, so once you've done it once,
Yeah.
is it easy?
It's easier.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think you might need a few goes just to learn how to do
what
it.
make is it then? And how much?
It's down here.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh, no, I'm here. I'm just reaching down to get my stool. It's called a leaf. I don't know how you say this. Lesfit or leafy?
Oh, left feet. Oh,
I think
leafy.
leafy sounds better.
I do.
We're going to do a little
Les
demo.
fit sounds weird.
Yeah.
Leafy, is it French? Is
Leafy.
it F-I-T?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
But we're going to do between us, aren't we? A little video on these stools. So,
Yeah. And how
don't
much
worry.
was it? Do you remember?
Oh God,
Was it £4 or was it more?
No, this was more. This was somewhere between. I can't remember if it was £10 or £13. So still relatively budget.
Yeah. If you're a regular outdoor sketcher, it's great.
Yeah. And then there are other options because I've looked into them all. So you can also get these rucksack type bags that are actually, I think, for fishermen, but you've got a rucksack with a bag in, but it converts into a chair or a stool, which is really quite clever. But I wouldn't really use one of those. Say, if going around London is a bit of a no-no because it'll just be too heavy. But if you're going out for maybe a couple of hours and you're just going somewhere where you've not got to walk too much, you're more or less, in one sort of area, then it might be the ideal thing, especially if you're in sort of by a river or something like that, could be ideal. So the only other thing I'd suggest is you might want to take some baby wipes or something with you, just if you're using ink or paint or something like that, just so you can wipe your hands off.
So, other things to consider is the changing weather, like Tara said. If you can, wear really light layers and just take a light rain jacket if you need to, preferably one that you can just roll up and fit in your bag. And of course, if it's hot, you might obviously want to wear some sun cream and take a sun hat. And if you're sketching in the sun, you've got to remember that light that bounces off a white page. It can be really fierce, so don't forget sunglasses like I did on a brilliantly hot day in Brighton. And finally, I can't stress this enough, but wear really comfy shoes if you're going to be wearing them all day and walking a lot. Tara, you and I just wore jeans, a t-shirt and trainers, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because comfort had to be a priority. And then we just had like a long-sleeved light jacket in our rucksacks, didn't we, just in case we needed them.
Yeah, but we did pull it off though, didn't we? We're quite cool anyway.
We did, yeah, we were the cool dudes in town.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, stick to simple sketch kit for a simple place. But if you're planning to be really adventurous, then obviously, you might need some extras depending on where you're going. Maybe insect repellent, a rape alarm, something to scare off any dangerous wildlife. But
I don't know where you're sketching.
Preferably avoid areas that are likely to have dangerous animals around. Come to the UK, we don't have any over here.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
at
take
least
your
I don't
squirrel
think
whistle with you or something, can't you? If you're going somewhere without any shops, you might also want to take food and drink. And once you've packed for your sketching trip, the first time, you'll have much more of an idea next time. So you can make a list. So I've got a holiday list. Do you do that?
I
Holiday
should, but
tick
no.
list?
No.
Oh. See, who's the OCD one now? So, yeah, you can make yourself a list even. I think one of the ideal things is once you get back from the trip, write down immediately then, what you shouldn't have took, what you should have took, make yourself a list straight off.
Yeah, because I've got a list now in my rucksack of all the things I need to take.
Have you?
Yeah, from our last trip. And that's exactly what I did, because now for our next trip, then, I know exactly what I want to take.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So if you have enough art materials, you could also have a sketching bag packed ready with some of the stuff you need, and then you're all ready to go, and all you need to add is like water, money, phone and sun lotion. I mean, I've actually got a pencil case now that I do keep more or less the stuff that I take sketching with me.
Yeah.
So I can just like throw that in a bag. So you don't even need the whole bag. You could just have a pencil case with, your basic kit and always chuck a few extra bits in. And that you want, of course, that rucksack that we mentioned before that's got enough space in it that you can kind of put a few extra bits in it without feeling like you're carrying an absolute ton of stuff. So now you know where you're going and what you're going to take, you can start planning the actual day. And this is the most important part, just to make sure you get the most you can out of your sketching day.
Yeah, first of all, you want to think about the things you most like to sketch before deciding where to go. And once you've decided, do your research to find out the best places to go in the area. And I found a brilliant app called GPS My City to plan the best route for us in Brighton. And it's so cool. What you do is you type in the name of the place you're going to, so Brighton or wherever. Then it brings up all the best places in the area to visit. And then you just click on the ones that appeal to you the most. I think there's something like a limit of 12, I don't know. But then you type in the postcode of your starting point, and then it will plan the best possible route for you to take that passes all of those places, which was really, really good because, you could spend hours zigzagging around not knowing quite which is the nearest thing, couldn't you? But this actually means that you're always on the way to the next place. I thought that was
so
really
what's that
good.
called again?
It's called GPS My City, and It was free when I downloaded it, and I thought it was brilliant.
If you're looking to go somewhere you've never been before, or it's a little bit further afield, have a look at the Rome to Rio app. Now, this is really clever because it will tell you all the different ways you can get to a place. So, say, for example, I was coming to Brighton again. I could put in where I live, where you are, and it will tell me I could get there by certain trains. It might tell me I could get there by buses, which way by car. It sort of gives you so many different options. So that's definitely one to look at. And then there's also Find My Friend app. Now, this isn't if you're feeling a bit lonely. It's not like it's not a Tinder for friends.
Find me a friend.
Yeah. Although we could do it. We find me a sketch friend. We could do with an app. Wouldn't that be good? Yeah. I think that's our future Kicking the Creatives thing. But this app lets you locate a friend if you both have the app. So I think it works on some sort of GPS thing. So it's really useful if you're meeting someone somewhere busy or have trouble finding each other. And it would have helped us. When we were in London, weren't we? I came to try and find you in the station. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
Oh, and the first time when I was giving you really bad directions when I got to I got to a spot in London and I thought I was somewhere else to where I actually was. And you were trying to find me in the cafe, and it would have been really useful for that.
Yeah, because I ended up walking about a mile in the opposite direction to where you were. Turns out you were pretty much about, 100 yards from the station, and I was miles away.
So that's really useful if you do need something like that. And then also getting deals on travel. If you book early and specific times, you can get travel so much cheaper. For example, when I went to Brighton, I think the train ticket for return cost me something like, I can't remember if it was £32 or £35. But if you got a normal ticket just for sort of any time, it was at least double that. So definitely worth saving like that. And for hotel deals, if you're going to stay over like I did in Brighton, look at places like Groupon, all these voucher sites, or use Tesco vouchers if you're in the UK. I used our Tesco vouchers and it ended up costing me about £10, I think, in tax, and that was it. So basically the whole trip, I think actually the train tickets were using a voucher as well. So the whole trip cost me a tenner plus drinks, plus free water.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that you and I went sketching together in London, we hadn't really planned in advance what we were going to sketch or where we wanted to go. So we spent a lot of time, didn't we, walking around in circles, kind of uncertain of where to go. So we ended up in the same place quite a few times, didn't we? We sort of ended up in the V&A Museum.
Yeah.
And passing the ice rink. And we were kind of walking around in circles, but we just hadn't really planned. We knew we were going to London to do sketching, but we hadn't sort of thought of the best route and we hadn't looked up the best places to sketch, hadn't really done much planning at all, really. So we ended up, like I say, in the same place quite a few times. And although it was still a really good day, I don't think we necessarily got the best out of that day because we hadn't done any planning. But we learnt from that trip, and the ones we've done since have been so much more productive and so much better organised. I mean, we've sketched in London a few times because aside from the fact that there's so much to sketch in London, you know, it's kind of in between the two of us, isn't it? So that seems to work quite well. And also, if the weather turns, you know, there are really interesting indoor places to sketch like museums and libraries.
But one thing to consider as well, though, is if you are going somewhere like when we went to Brighton, for example, it was a long trip for me because it took me over 3 hours on the train. But once I got there and met up with you, we probably got actually much more done because although it was that long travel, there was then no travelling in between. It was just all in one place, wasn't it? So think about, even though you might have to travel a bit further, if it's a compact area where everything's there that you want, it might actually be a better place to go in the end. And some good places to sketch are places like beaches and parks, museums and cafes. It all depends what you enjoy drawing and what you want to practice. Like you said before, the Tate was great for buildings.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you came to Brighton in the winter, obviously, then that would be more tricky because I think it's more of an outdoorsy place to sketch, isn't it? Less places I know of that you can sort of go indoors. And you don't want to be spending, you know, loads of money because you're constantly having to sketch in cafes. You want to go to you want to find places that you could go in for free, don't you? Like you say, museums is great. And obviously Tate Modern and all these different places, all these galleries, and there's so much of that in London. It was fabulous. Another thing to bear in mind, make sure you think about where the toilets are in the area. Don't wait until you're crossing your legs. So go when you get the opportunity because, you know, that's one thing I think it would be easy to forget, wouldn't it?
I think you sound like my mother. Make sure you know where the toilet is.
And on that note, I would also suggest leaving off any alcohol until towards the end of the day because, you know, if you start having a drink, you know, at 12 o'clock or beer o'clock, as my husband calls it, on a Sunday, but it could sort of make you feel a bit tired and less like sketching. I think we usually end our day trips, don't we, with a little drinky, but that's when we've already done a lot of sketching.
Yeah, I mean, we did that in Covent Garden, didn't we, at the end? We had... Well, you had 2 drinks, I only had 1, because obviously I was making sure I didn't drink too much alcohol.
Well, what was interesting about that, though, and it occurred to me when I was talking about it the other day, that I was looking through those sketches in London, and that particular sketch is almost completely different style than any of the others I've done. I was thinking maybe that was me having a drink that's done that.
Could be, couldn't it? So what will happen on your sketching trip? So be prepared that your first sketches might be bad. Just call them warm-ups. We called them warm-ups for quite a lot of the day, didn't we?
Yeah, we were warming up almost all day.
Yeah. Because, you know, at the beginning you're just loosening up and getting in that mood and you're starting to become more comfortable with the idea of being outside if you're not used to it, being outside and sitting amongst people, really. If you're travelling, you might want to get some of the bad sketches out of the way en route, on the train or the bus. Now, I didn't do that on the train. I know you did, didn't you, on the way down the first time?
Yeah. But
I actually did so on the way back.
On our second trip, courtesy of you, I was first class on the train. And there was no one in the cabin apart from me, so I didn't have anything to sketch.
So that was my fault then.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
Because of the vouchers.
Yeah.
No,
but I did get a lovely doily on my chair.
Oh, did you? You should have kept that, shouldn't you?
Oh, it's me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oops. So you can also expect that people might come over and they might want to look at what you're doing. And it won't always happen and you won't always like it when it does, but with confidence, eventually it won't bother you at all. Tara, we've had quite a lot, haven't we? I think at one point in Brighton we were kind of surrounded by a group of women who were wanting to see what we were doing. But, you know, everyone was just saying really lovely things. It was really nice. I think there was a time when we would probably have died when that happened, like thrown ourselves on top of our sketchbooks, but kind of doesn't bother me anymore. But, you know, if you're that bothered about it, there are a few things you can do to avoid it. One good trick is to wear headphones. You don't have to be actually listening to anything. just wearing them should be enough. Because if you think about it, if someone's wearing headphones, you're far less likely to approach them, aren't you? And even if they do approach, you can kind of get away with pretending not to notice without sort of feeling really rude.
Yeah, I was actually wondering when to do that down the river, actually, on Saturday. In case nobody turns up, just stick some headphones on.
Yeah, but what if somebody does turn up?
I know,
you don't
that's
know.
a slightly awkward thing, isn't
You're
it?
not aware. As long as they're
Yeah,
not noise-cancelling headphones and you have nothing actually playing, you should still be able to hear, shouldn't you?
Well, then I can just check them out, see if they look like they're a nutter or all right. Leave them on if they look dodgy.
If they're carrying an axe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So you can also choose quieter places where there aren't too many people around. So on a recent sketch meetup, we went and, like I said earlier, on Saturday, went and drew outside a local museum. And there was a few people that walked past, but to be honest, they didn't even bother us. I don't even think they gave us a second look. They just didn't care.
No.
You can also go inside a library or museum. It's a good idea that you can draw people without them noticing as well, because they might have heads in the books or really intently watching what they're doing. And sometimes museums and galleries have statues, which are great because they don't move. If you're in a sketching group or with a friend, you can always sketch each other too.
Yeah, you sketched me, didn't you, a couple of times?
Yeah.
I sketched you, and it was horrific.
Very flattering.
But yeah, I mean, those places are really good. And I fancy sketching in a big library. And I'm thinking maybe when we go to London next, we can go to, there's a really famous library, isn't there? Maybe we can go in there.
The British Library.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, I was thinking perhaps we could have, look. I'm presuming it's really old-fashioned as well, and oldie-worldy.
Oh,
I could be
never
wrong.
been in.
No, I haven't, and I quite fancy that idea. And in museums, like you say, people are often focused on something else, but some of them, we found, didn't we, especially in the V&A Museum, loads of people were actually sketching. So we were just like one of so many that nobody took any notice. So that was good. There can be minor frustrations as well when you're sketching from life outdoors. People getting in the way of what you're trying to sketch or changing position at the worst moment. But I suppose that's all part of the challenge. I know that a few years ago I went to a place quite local to me. It's called Michelin Priory, and I went in there and decided to do a day's sketching. And I was intently sketching this archway with this kind of... it was like a still life almost. It wasn't a still life, but it was kind of something on the table that just was begging to be drawn. I really wanted to sit down and sketch it, and it seemed to be so obvious what I was doing. I was sitting on this chair looking at this table sketching, and all of a sudden this group of people just came and stood right in front of it and decided to talk about all sorts of stuff and stand there for about 20 minutes. And I was halfway through my sketch, so I was kind of like, well, come on. But anyway, that sort of thing can be frustrating. I remember in Brighton as well. Was it Brighton or London? There was a guy and, I was drawing his sunglasses, and the second I started drawing his sunglasses, he took them off. And then I started drawing his hand, and the second I started drawing his hand, he put it in his pocket. That kind of thing is a real challenge, but it's kind of almost part of the fun now, But I think the worst possible thing that could happen on a trip out is that someone notices you and says, oh, that's not very good. But first of all, that is highly unlikely. I mean, you're far more likely to find that people are really impressed and they love what you're doing. But whatever anyone says, you're never going to see that person again anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But even if you do meet that one person who could bring themselves to say something like that, well, you're not out to impress anyone anyway. You are just out to practice your skill, maybe to experiment, and not every sketch is going to be a success for any level of artist. And the other thing, of course, is that you might come back with a string of sketches you really don't like. But even then, that's an armload of practice. And besides, sometimes, this is what we found, isn't it, Tara, that you can look at your sketches and you can think, oh, I don't like that one, don't like that one, that one's not too bad, don't like that one. And then the following day, you open your sketchbook and you think, oh, actually, I really do like that, You find that as well with yours, don't you?
Yeah, but I also find it the other way. So sometimes I don't like ones that I liked when I was out, and then I like other ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you can't judge it instantly. You kind of almost need to look at it again with fresh eyes on a different day.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, the improvement is huge once you just start doing it. So You've just got to make that happen. So when you get back from that first trip, just make sure you book another one. And we've booked another one, haven't we, Tara?
Yeah, we're going near the end of December, aren't we? September.
I was going to say, hopefully I'm not going on my own in September.
So now, shall we read out the answers to our previous question?
Yeah.
And the question was, what's most important to you, the creative process or the outcome? And I've got John Monroe, and he says, I love the creative process. Every time I submit something and I get critique, comment, feedback or observation, it's a bonus. When I was younger, I wrote for fun, but was conscious not to offend. Now I'm older, I'm slightly less concerned.
And I've got Michelle Thurine. Is that how you pronounce that? Thurine?
Not sure.
Thurine? The creative process is why I show up to my art. It's that engagement of being present and taking the journey of discovery, planning a piece and not knowing where it'll end up. Whether I consider it good or not, I learn something each time, and sometimes I amaze myself with what comes together in the end.
I've got Stacey Lynn Stewart, and she says, the process. Sometimes my feelings come out in my art, and other times my art helps me shape my feelings. Either way, creating from the heart is always satisfying, no matter the outcome.
And I've got Becky Smith, the process. My outcomes are usually mediocre, but the process of creation, the development of ideas, the trial and error, the studies of aspects and parts do wonderful things for my mind and my soul and make me happy and joyful, even if the end piece isn't great. I have discovered that I enjoy writing, poetry, art and creativity in general, and it's mind-blowing.
And I've got Cheryl Martin, and she says, the creative process, and that my poetry spreads happiness and blessing when someone is touched by my words.
Angela Murphy says, the creative process. I can just lose myself in what I'm doing. Love seeing the end product, usually, but once I'm done, I'm done. On to the next thing. I feel unfinished work has a hold on me, and when it's completed, I can let it go. Oh, I really relate to that.
I've got Mia Bergland, and she says, I wish I could say creative process, but unfortunately, I'm way too result orientated. I have to feel that I will be happy with the result to be able to enjoy the process.
I've got Joanna Brown. It varies. If I'm writing, I find the process hard and I just like getting it done. If it's drawing or painting, I can get completely blissfully lost in the process, though it's still nice if the result turns out well.
I've got Mumsy Savo, and she says the creative process. However long and infuriating, when the outcome is what I hope for, I know I've stepped forward.
I've got Patty Kelly Fuller. Art has always been a place for me to relax and to consider what I'd like to do without rules or guidelines, without all the normal ways that I structure my life and things I need to complete in a day. It frees my heart and my soul and allows me to live in the moment and the next. It allows me to experiment and to try things, to redo or change what I'm doing as it suits me. It is a place that feeds my energy. Often it's that quiet place where it's just me and my art and I don't have to be mindful of others around me. It's my daily getaway and it's that time I need in my life to renew and refresh. And sometimes it's my refuge when I find that everything and everyone in the world must go away until I can find my balance again. And I don't mean that in a serious, concerning way. I mean, it's my daily break from the world in a healthy way to nourish and refresh myself. It's all mine, and it's something I don't have to share with anyone else or be directed by anyone else about how to do it. I'm free to be myself, to play and to discover.
And I've got Carrie Brummy Hannah.
Brummy?
Right. Sorry, Carrie. I've got Carrie Brummer. I can't say it now. Carrie Brummer Hannah. And she says, for most of my life, it was always about the end product because I've been so achievement driven. It wasn't till I started this new work I'm doing that I started to realise how much of my work is now about celebrating and enjoying the journey.
And I've got Rebecca Reynolds. I'm such a completer/finisher in life. I struggle to enjoy the process. I want to get to the end product, but I'm trying to learn to enjoy the process and I understand that I need to. Working on it.
I've got Pamela Conley, and she says, for me, the process has become crucial. At first, it was intimidating, but it's changed as I've got better. It's the time I have both to relax and become so focused on what I'm doing that everything else falls away. And by the process, I learn to see in a more nuanced way. Slight shifts in tone, shading, lights and shadows come alive. And in the process, so do I.
I've got Bradley Bergin. For me, the end result. I will admit, though, that during the process, I can get excited when I discover something new in a media or process. So both in a way.
I've got Kirsty Close, and she says the process. It's about the journey, not the destination, as they say. I don't have much skill in the art department, but I love coming up with ideas, having checked the prompts for each day. I'm not fussed if it doesn't come out perfectly, as long as I'm bringing a concept out of my head, especially if it be one that I'd struggle to articulate with words.
And I've got Made of Sea and Stars. I think for me, it may depend on what my end goal is, and sort of finding time for them both. If I have a submission or a commission, I feel more pressure for the outcome to be great. If it is time I take alone in art journaling or pieces for myself, the process itself feels better and more important. They each have their time under my sun, but they also play off each other. When I enjoy the process and allow it to just be, I tend to be okay with the outcome no matter what. And if I've had a difficult time during the process, I learn, and next time can be more enjoyable.
And I've got another Instagram name, which is Art Exploration. And she says, the creative process is more important to me. I like to see progress in my art, but I've not allowed myself to get too caught up in the outcome. I am an amateur and I feel I am learning.
So before I get on to the next question, I just want to mention a podcast we have coming up called Ask Us Anything. So it's your chance to ask myself or Tara anything you like, and we will do our best to answer. It can be serious or it can be funny. We love a funny one, and we will answer within reason if we can. And you can find that question up on the Facebook group, so you can pop in there and write on the comments. Now, we haven't looked at any comments, so we have no idea how many there are. Would it be funny if we opened it up and nobody...
Yeah.
There was none. Nobody has it. It'd be the shortest episode, yeah. But we don't quite know when we're going to record that yet, but we're not going to open the comments in probably till the day before, so it'll be really interesting to see what comes up. But,
yeah, I was going to say, if someone else who's not in the group wants to send us a question, they can email us, and it's howdy, obviously, because we're cowboys, at howdy@kickinthecreatives.com.
So, today's question is, if you could go urban sketching anywhere, where would it be and why? So, if you could go urban sketching anywhere, where would it be and why?
Okay, you know what's coming next, don't you, Sandra?
Well, you're going to ask me. I normally ask you.
I know.
Oh,
Go on, then.
no, you beat me to it. Do you know what I fancy? I fancy going to... I would have said Paris because they've got lots of lovely things in Paris, but I think I'm going to say Amsterdam because of all the bikes and all the... they've got some really quirky things there. They've got boats, bikes, canals, railings, buildings, people, bistros, cafes, you name it, they've got it. And we were talking about this, weren't we, Tara, that maybe at some point the two of us could go to Amsterdam on a little sketching weekend, maybe even track Kusha Kona down and stalk her. Invite her to come sketch with us.
God, Kosher will be scared now. Poor woman.
But no, I think as that's literally just been, I wasn't really thinking about what answer I'd say. I think that's what I would say at the moment. What about you?
Well, that's what I was going to say because you suggested it the other day and I thought, that sounds quite good.
Yeah. I like that idea, and I think there's a bit of everything there.
But you know what? I'm not going to smoke any hash cakes. Smoke any hash cakes. Any hash cakes.
You'd have a job smoking a hash cake.
I'm not doing any of that.
No, can you imagine that? Can you imagine what our sketching would be like? God, that would actually be quite interesting. Maybe we should experiment or not.
I stop at a prosecco or a cider.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It could be catastrophic results.
Yeah.
And also the worst result would be if we did that and then our sketching was absolutely fantastic. Then the only way is down, isn't it? So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
As always, you can tweet us your answers at Kick Creatives or let us know in the Facebook group, which if you haven't joined, I highly suggest you do. We'll put the question up there and also on the Facebook page and, of course, on our Instagram page, which is Kick in the Creatives.
And don't forget to pop to our website at kickinthecreatives.com to find out how you can take part in some of our upcoming creative challenges. And of course, there you can also subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you are enjoying the podcast, we would be really, really grateful if you would leave us a little review on iTunes or even just a little star rating if you don't have much time. Well, I'll say little star. I mean 5, of course.
Yeah. And, of course, don't forget to check out our weekly YouTube videos, which we call Art Kick Sundays. The videos are light-hearted and fun, but also informative. So if you want a laugh, go and check those out, because we do all sorts of mad stuff, don't we?
Yeah. In fact, one of them recently I didn't share because I was so embarrassed. I thought the fewer people that see this, the better.
Yeah. If you want to see Sandra in the bath or me with tights over my head, go and check those out.
Right, well, that's it for today. So we will chat again soon.
Yep, see ya. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to share it and leave a review for us on iTunes. Back soon. So finally, I think.
Sorry.
What on earth?
Sorry, I had to sneeze, and I'm not very good at quiet sneezes.
Flipping heck, it blew my ears off.
Sorry. So I interrupted your sunscreen.
Okay, I'm going to have to start that bit again.
Okay.